Last year I reviewed the Chromebook Plus from Samsung and I really liked it, although I wasn't crazy about the ARM-based processor. I thought it needed a little bit more horsepower. Well, Samsung just released this. This is the follow-up from last year's model. This is the Samsung Chromebook Plus version 2. This time it's got an Intel processor. It also has a display with a lower resolution, believe it or not, but I'm hoping for better battery life. And of course, it still retains the S Pen, which I absolutely loved on the last year's model, and I'm looking forward to testing on this model. Hey everybody, this is Andrew, and this is my unboxing and first look at Samsung's Chromebook Plus version 2. Coming up. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button and don't forget to hit that notification icon. This way you'll be alerted every time I post a new video. And make sure you're following me on Twitter to get all the latest updates. Now the Chromebook Plus version 2 retails for $4.99 and you could pick it up today at Best Buy. It was released today actually, and I was able to get my hands on one. I'm glad I did to give you this first look. Now packaging is not very fancy, but that's not what we're here to see. We want to know what's inside the box, right? So let's open it up. Now in the box you can see your quick start guide as well as your extra tips for your S Pen as well as the tip remover tool. You also get your power charger which uses USB Type-C to charge this device. Now right off the bat you're going to notice the stealth silver color. It's very space gray like. I actually like it. I think it looks good. Now the other thing you're going to notice is this is heavier than last year's model. Not by much, but it is certainly noticeable. You have 4 feet on the bottom as well as your 2 bottom facing speakers. We'll talk more about the sound in just a little bit. On the right side you have a USB 3.0, it's Type A, power button, volume rocker up and down, and the silo where you'll hold your S Pen. Now the S Pen uses the Wacom EMR technology. It's battery free, so I like that, and it also has 4096 levels of pressure sensitivity. We'll talk more about that later in this video. And on the left side you have your 3.5mm headset jack, 2 USB-C ports, and a microSD card slot for storage expansion. This has 32 gigabytes of onboard storage. It's eMMC. We'll talk more about that in the full review. Now in an interesting move, they went with a lower resolution display. Last year it was a 12.3-inch IPS display with a 3:2 aspect ratio. It was 2560 by 1600. Here you're looking at a 12.2-inch IPS LCD panel. It's a 1920 by 1200 resolution. That's 185 pixels per inch, and it has a 16:10 aspect ratio. But nonetheless, so far I'm pretty impressed with this display. For a full HD panel, it's very sharp, the colors are very crisp, the blacks are very deep, and I'm looking forward to testing it out over the next week or two and report my findings. Now the bezels aren't the thinnest I've ever seen, but they're certainly not very thick. But again, this will be used in tablet mode, so you will need to have some bezels to use this efficiently as a tablet. And Samsung claims 300 nits of brightness. We'll see how that fares in my testing, and I will let you know. But so far it seems like a pretty bright display. I will test it in both indoor and outdoor use and let you know my findings. Now last year they went with an ARM-based processor in the Plus model and went with an Intel processor in the Pro model. Well, this Plus model version 2 now has an Intel Celeron processor. It's the 3965Y. I've never used this one before, so I'm looking forward to benchmarking it and testing it in my full review. It also has 4 gigabytes of RAM and 32 gigabytes of eMMC storage. You can expand it via the microSD card slot. Now last year the keyboard did not have a backlight, and I was hoping in the next iteration that they would include one, and unfortunately here in the Plus model version 2 we're not getting that, and unfortunately I'm a little bit disappointed in that move. Now as far as the keyboard itself is concerned, it's actually pretty comfortable, it's pretty responsive, and had pretty decent tactile feedback. And it's a spill resistant keyboard, so if you spill your water or your coffee, it's not the end of the world. I like that. The trackpad also very good, very responsive, 2-finger scrolling worked well, pinch to zoom worked well, all your gestures worked well. No complaints in my first initial 24 hours of use with it. And so far I think it feels pretty good on the lap. When you're on the sofa, you're just surfing the web, it actually is pretty comfortable. Or just using it as a tablet, I thought it was pretty good. Now this is a little bit heavier than last year's model, so using it in tablet mode is still good. It's just a little bit noticeably heavier than last year's model. Sketching some artwork or taking some notes work well in that tablet mode. Now this is a very versatile device, meaning that this 360-degree hinge gives you many options as far as use of this product. First, there's laptop mode. This is great for general purpose use. This is how I use it most of the time. Next, you could flip it into tent mode. This is great for recipes in the kitchen or consuming media. I like this mode a lot. Or you could put it into stand mode. This is also great for watching Netflix, YouTube, consuming media, and the like. Or use with the S Pen. And of course, you could put it into tablet mode. This is great for use with that S Pen to take notes, sketch out some artwork, or just sofa surf when you want to. This is actually a pretty versatile device, in my opinion. I'll go a little bit further into what the S Pen can do in the full review. And of course, you have your front-facing camera, which is great for Skype and video conferencing. So this is the front-facing camera on the Samsung Chromebook Plus. Now, instead of putting a back camera on this, they put another camera on this called the world-facing 13 megapixel camera. We'll show that in a minute. But this is the front-facing camera, good for Skype, good for video conferencing. It's actually not bad. The Chromebook camera app, by the way, is terrible. So I would use something from the Android store for sure. But just wanted to give you a sample of what this looks like on the new Samsung Chromebook Plus version 2. Let me know what you think about it in that comment section below. Now, instead of using a traditional rear camera, this time around they decided to do something different. It's called the world-facing 13 megapixel camera, and it's located right below the hinge on the left side, right above the keyboard, and that's a really interesting placement for some interesting results. My initial impressions of the camera is it's not very good, and I'm not really crazy about the image quality here, but then again, I'm not really using this for photography to begin with, so it's not a deal breaker for me. But for those that want to use it in a pinch to take some video or maybe even some photography, I highly recommend against it. As you know, my stance on that, but if you need to use it, it's there, and you can take some video as well, as you can see here. I just don't think the image is very clear. I'm not really sure what's going on. Maybe with a different camera app we'll get a better result. Who knows? I'll test it more in my full review. There are two bottom-facing speakers. I'm not crazy about that placement because when you're placing it on a table, you will hear some muffled sound. It's not terrible. It does get pretty loud, but then again, these aren't the best sounding speakers I've ever heard. But it does have a 3.5mm headphone jack, so if you want to plug in some really high-end headphones, you have that option, or use your Bluetooth headphones for that matter. The speakers aren't terrible, but they're not great. But I will do further testing of this and report my findings. In the meantime, let's take a listen. Now, one thing I'm interested in is to see how well the battery lasts on this and how long it takes to charge this device. Of course, I've had it less than 24 hours, so I will be doing my testing. And I also want to see how well the Android apps run on this, since Chrome OS runs Android apps natively out of the box. Now, having used this for less than 24 hours, I can't really give you my final opinion yet, but I can give you my first impressions, and so far, I'm liking that Full HD panel. I think it's pretty sharp. The S Pen has 4096 levels of pressure sensitivities, working as we'd expect very well. Solid build, good looks. I like that stealth silver color. It looks very space grayish. I actually like it. And it has a pretty good front-facing webcam. So far, I'm liking that as well. But of course, there are some things that I'm not crazy about so far. And that first thing being is that it does have a lower resolution than last year's model. The aspect ratio is no longer 3:2, and it is a lower resolution. And the average sounding speakers are a little bit disappointing, but they're not terrible, but certainly not high-end either. And at $499, it is expensive as a Chromebook. You don't get a backlit keyboard. That's a bit disappointing. And that world-facing camera left much to be desired. I'm not crazy about the image quality. But of course, I will go through my full testing and let you know what I really think about this when I complete my final review. So stay tuned for that. So what do you think about the Samsung Chromebook Plus version 2. I like it so far. Initial reaction is I really like this 1080p display. Yes, it's not as high resolution as last year's model, but I think we'll do better on battery life. And I think performance will actually be better, of course, with this Intel processor as opposed to an ARM-based processor. So I'm looking forward to testing all the benchmarks that I normally do with the Chromebooks and other laptops as well. Battery life, I'm hoping, will be good. It's a little bit heavier than last year's model, and that's okay. If they put a bit of bigger battery in that and get battery life, I'm certainly okay with a little bit of added weight. Now, I like the color. This is the Stealth Silver, and it's actually a very nice color. It's almost like a space gray, and I really do like it. Now, one thing missing on this is a backlit keyboard. You don't get that on this device. You didn't have it last year, and I'm surprised they didn't add one in this year. I don't know if it's a cost-cutting measure to get it in at that $499 price point, but I think it's something that we would like to see going forward. Maybe there's going to be a Pro model that might have it. Hopefully that might be the case. But it's certainly not a deal breaker, but it would have been nice to have a backlit keyboard on this. I will do my further testing on this, especially with this S Pen, which I liked in last year's model. I like it on this year's model. I love the fact that you can store it in the device, not have to worry about losing it. That's a really handy feature. When you need to take a note or sketch something out, you got it right there. I love that. So I'm looking forward to really testing this as my daily driver for the next week or so. So stay tuned. I will bring you that full review. So please hit the like button, please subscribe, please share this video. Don't forget to leave a comment in that comment section below. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know if there's a device or something out there you think I should review. I'll do my best to try to make that happen. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram, and of course our website, amdtechreviews.com. So until next time, this is Andrew from AMD Tech. See ya.